evening. It's good to see you. May 14th.
I was like, whatever.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get going this evening, we have an executive session immediately after, and then we are trying to get to the middle school band concert, so we are not going to have public comments this evening. We will get to those on future meetings. If you have something you'd like to give us a comment, please email myself, and I'll make sure that the board gets the information we want this evening. First item is to approve our consent agenda items. We have approval of our minutes from our meetings last month, approval of claims. We have approval of the field trip for the 8th grade going to Washington, D.C. again for next year. I want to read these. Approval of donations. Don McElfresh and Compass donated $250 to the middle school teen night. Liberty Mission Society donated $247.50 to elementary school intermediate student activity account. John and Donna Hughes, $120 to the intermediate student activity account. Tipton Middle School World of Creativity donors were VRS Mechanical, Star Financial, Logan Grant and Connor, Apple Group, the Floor Store, Compass Credit Union, State Farm, Overdorf Farms, Subway, Steve and Nancy Byer, Lee Landscape and Concrete, Pioneer, Young and Nichols, Lions Club, and Smith Family Dentistry. Thank them for all their support with that. We also want to pull out our personnel report and go through it. The individuals this evening, kind of go backwards on this. Classified staff, resignation of Dan Thomas from third shift custodian at elementary school. Abby Minak, Pinky, school nurse from the elementary school. Recommendations of Brandy Hart, custodian at the high school. Joshua First, technology support technician. Is he here still? There he is. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
ECA staff, recommendation of Kendall Gatewood, auxiliary sponsor for the high school. Resignation of Blue Fay, boys varsity basketball coach. Certified staff, resignation of Blue Fay from the 7th grade teacher in the school year. A recommendation of Hannah Fakes, 2019 summer I Read, mediation teacher from the elementary school, and then retirement of Kathy Easton from primary elementary. Appreciate Kathy all the time here and everything. Wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for getting all these kids through. My daughter especially. We miss me. We have all these items. Do I have a motion to approve these consent items? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, superintendent's report.
Okay, so first up we have spotlight on schools, and I'm at Tipton Middle School. Clark, would you like to introduce your group?
Today we'll have Mrs. Calloway, and she has a group of students that will report on our field trip to Indiana University Kokomo, and she has a PowerPoint of some things that we did, and they're going to share their experience with that staff.
So the first thing I want to do is thank these guys. We originally had about 12 kids lined up, and since we finally have nice weather outside, all day long they kept coming into my office going, Mrs. Calloway, my coach just changed our game to tonight. I said, that's okay, we'll fill in. So I think some of these guys have volunteered to take some extra parts. So if they sound a little bit not as prepared, that might be why. I told them I will not would be okay. So what we did was, I think that was last spring, we went to IUK and met with some of the individuals up there. They're really trying to encourage people to come see what IUK is like now, which it had been a long time since I had been there, not to tell my age, but I did take one class there the summer after my freshman year, and let's just say it's a lot bigger than the one building and the other little place that they had. But, I think most of the kids enjoyed it. I know some of them were like, I want to go further than that from home, so, but it was a good activity. Well, when we first went, we went last Thursday. When we first went, they were divided into 5 groups that IUK divided them into by their name tags. They were to have those on when they arrived. They sent them into 5 groups, and they did 5 groups because there were 5 different classes that they could participate in, kind of exposing them to some different areas and that sort of thing. They played a little icebreaker game when we first got there with some of the admissions people, so they could kind of see how admissions work and just get to know each other better. Sometimes it's other schools also. Ours was just us because the whole 7th grade class went. Then they went through those 5 classes, and they're going to present. I'm going to let them tell you about those. They each had a student mentor with them from IUK, as well as at least one. Most of them had 2 or 3 teachers with their group. And then after those classes, they ate lunch, which we ended up having students bring their own lunch, so there was no cost to any student. And we did have a couple who didn't have sack lunches, so there were some of us moms who packed a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter, and then some that brought extras so that we would make sure that everybody had something to eat. So after they finished that, then they got to walk around campus and see a few more buildings. The presentations they were in for the classes were 3 different ones, but they showed them a lot. And thankfully the weather held out and it wasn't raining while they had to walk around, I don't think, unless somebody got wet that I missed. So it was pretty good. At this point, I'm going to let the kids talk to you about the courses. Mackenzie and Grace are going to talk to you about this first one, and we'll just go through it as the slides pop up.
Okay, so first of all, as soon as we walked in there, we were given a big piece of paper, and we were supposed to make up like a product, and we were taught to use the 5 P's to promote it and give it to the sharks. And the 5 P's were profit, place, price, product, and promote. And the product that the students designed had to be their own creative idea, not something that was already made. The sharks each picked a team after everyone presented that would win, determining if they had the 5 P's and how they presented their product. They picked the product that was most unique and which one had the most potential to evolve.
One of the things, just a little side note, that they praised our kids for was all of our groups had at least 1, if not 2, very creative projects. One of them that I thought was interesting, most of the women in the crowd would probably like this, was we had a group of girls who flip it and switch it, and they had removable sides off the sides of the shoes. The sole would stay the same. You could turn them inside out. So they got 2 pairs of shoes for the price of 1. What do you guys, I know this isn't really any of your slides.
Our next class was organic chemistry, and for the experiment we did, we put aluminum and copper sulfate, which basically just made it rusty. And Mrs. Sherritt, the head of the chemistry department, explained how you can balance the chemical reaction and what organic chemistry is basically all about. And then we're able to observe the copper sticking to the aluminum and the reaction.
Our next class was, we had health science, where they taught you how your muscles react to different things, like such as like if you were trying to just stand on one leg, your body knows that you can do that because you've done it so many times in the past, but as soon as you close your eye and take away another of the senses, then you'll just wobble around and eventually fall over if you're really bad. And you'd have to actually do that for 2 weeks, once a day, to actually get it completely down and not wobble or anything like that. We also stood on one of the trainer balls. It's like a half yoga ball, and she tossed you a bunch of like balls and stuff, and you had to catch them and stuff. And when you're focusing on one thing, your mind goes to that instead of bouncing on the ball. Or if you're focusing on bouncing on the ball, then you wouldn't catch the ones that were flying at you. And then we also had one where you put your hands out like this, and she would drop balls on your hand, and every time it would go down and then come back up from the weight of the ball, but your mind was telling you you want to stay in that position, not make it go all the way down, because you could just let him down, let it fall, but your mind keeps telling you to go back up to where it originally was.
Our next activity was the crime lab, and we were taught how to do correct fingerprints, and we also were taught about some of the careers that we could go into, such as a judge, a lawyer, a prosecutor, or a police officer. And with fingerprinting, she said that the average person has about 150 to 200 fingerprint points, but only one had to match for the jury to convict you.
And then our last activity was math, and it was really cool. We did a lot of different things in there. She let us hold this Mobius strip activities and the Klein bottles. The Klein bottle is actually really cool because it doesn't have a sides, a middle, or like any features that like a cubic, for example, would have. It just keeps circulating. Like if you tried to put it on a computer that would like identify sides, it wouldn't find any because there are none. And then the strip activity was you taped it up together a strip, cut it in half, and it'd create 2 loops. But as soon as you twist the strip once and tape it together, it would create just one big loop, even though you cut it.
That's when they went to launch them and did their campus tours. I don't know if you guys have any questions for them or for us, but most of the feedback we've heard has been positive, and looking forward to hopefully doing it again.
It was really fun, and it was educational too.
How many students had to go?
Any 7th grade student could go. We had 6 or 7
that didn't.
that chose not to go.
Okay.
Yeah, they just didn't want to. So, and I tried to con them into it the day before, but I was not very good at that, I guess. Yeah, and that was the one reason why we did the lunches. That way there was no cost. Nobody had to pay anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I use the really personal part of that experience. Recruit kids to go to UK, but a lot of them that's just expose middle school students to the college. Doesn't have to be intimidating or very fun. I usually that that's the product of what the internet is. Next item is department report. You got the facilities. Facility reform, Mr. Wessel's not here tonight. Probably a big thing, we did do the evacuation drill at the high school April 30th, where we relocated high school students, bused them, took them out to Parkland Church, a relocation site, in case of emergency. And that's when parents would go to pick up their students, not coming here, but going out there. We did that in concert with emergency management here in Tipton County, so again, great partnership with them. A lot of planning went into that. It was very smooth, not without incident, but that's why we do the drills to find out what areas we can improve on. Some of the paperwork out there is a lot of comment, feedback we got from teachers, sometimes cumbersome, so how can we streamline that to allow parents to get their kids in a more efficient manner. So again, Wilson with the West Side came back from 2 days of training with the advanced school safety specialist training at Indianapolis. That was one of the subjects. You know, we do all these basic drills, and we need to take it to the next step. Reunification. That's the biggest challenging part. Can be the most chaotic. You know, how do we keep parents away from the scene where the law enforcement's working and get them relocated at another site in the most efficient manner possible. You know, parents are very anxious. They want to feel their kids are okay, and that's why we practice it. So practice to find out where our flaws are, so we can correct those flaws and get better each time we do it. We did the middle school earlier in the year, so both of them been real good. take a lot of time and effort on part of teachers, students, and parents, but it's well worth that practice, so we don't should we ever have to do so. So that was a big thing for him. Mowing, I mentioned earlier, that's something we're not real happy with right now, but something we're monitoring. We'll talk more about that at the facilities committee tomorrow night. We got a technology report from Mr. Gingerich, and of course, last week's been tied up with making sure our technology is working for the learning took place. So we've been working very hard with the school on that. Also, me and Mr. Burse indoctrinated here at Tipton, so get him started and off to a good start. Also take a look at the laptops, getting ready for disposal of those, and get ready for the picking up computers at the end of the year. Also, if we look at the Sling Studio, okay, we tried a video recording operation a couple months ago that Tipton County helped us with. Let us borrow their equipment to try it for some live streaming. We were talking to that company, pretty costly, so we've been looking at some other options. And the Sling Studio is one option. So a couple other schools in the state are using, so they brought the equipment down. Mr. Gingerich and Mr. Burris back there have been playing with it and figuring it out. Burris here tonight operating it. We're recording, we're not live streaming. We're just trying to equip it out and see how it works, and we'll evaluate that after tonight's meeting. And then you have a report from Ms. Duncan with the high ability assessments, finishing up multi-tiered systems, so we're ready to go next year. Put the final touches with changing from Title I to dyslexia, and some other things that she's been involved with. Any questions on any of those reports? Then the financial report, you had your monthly report. I give you a summary of the monthly review. In revenue versus expenditures. For April, our expenditures exceeded revenue by $159,000, giving us a cash balance of just under $1 million in the education fund. The other funds listed in the middle of the pages there in the report include debt service with a cash balance of $1.3 million, operations fund with a cash balance of $1.8 million, and year-to-date interest for first borrowers is about $61,000. So, pretty good shape. Then some other things. The corporation was recently notified that we have received official accreditation from Advanced Ed. So we have some certificates to present to our schools from Advanced Ed. So we had an external review team come in February and talked to a lot of students, a lot of staff, a lot of parents, other stakeholders. Gave a report, gave us some things we really need to work on. Take those to heart. Talk about that in a minute. Presenting the certificates, we have Tipton Elementary. So, Ms. Easton, would you like to come up and do that? You do the honors. Mr. Clark from Tipton Middle School. Mr. Wilson at Tipton High School. Congratulate, appreciate the work that everybody did to receive this accreditation. Also, the high school we recognized next month from the Department of Education College Board for their efforts to provide students with access to success and advanced placement courses. For tonight, we're going to be adding to that list. We have recognized schools where at least 25% of the graduating class cohort earned a score of 3 or higher on at least one AP exam in 2018. So there will be a ceremony held Thursday, June 13th at the State House. So congratulate the high school on those efforts. The band also at the high school is recipient again of the Indiana State School Music Association All Music Awards for 2018-2019. So Mr. Steele's first year, quite an accomplishment, very much a tradition. So again, congratulations to the high school and the Tipton High School band. We celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week last week. A number of things done for our teachers. A number of parents at TESO came in to provide food, refreshments, and things for our teachers. We also had our employee recognition dinner last week where we recognized individuals who provided years of service to the corporation, including our retirees. Lisa Fetting from the library here at the corporation, Natalie Thompson, special ed at the high school. Houston didn't announce until after that, but we certainly congratulate her. And Ruth Thompson from maintenance, who retired last fall. Also, congratulations to the Lady Blue Devil softball team winning the Hoosier Conference Championship again this year, from last year. Of course, we're hitting sectional week. Dennis plays tomorrow night in sectional football, and baseball, softball starting next week, golf, and so wish those kids best of luck in sectional play. And we've been working on the school improvement with the Advanced Ed Steering Committee. We met as early as late as tonight. Continue to meet with all strategies from the Advanced Ed report. Those strategies also encompass the input we received from the community meetings this past fall. So the meeting activities we're working on, continuing examination of marketing in our schools. Ms. Duncan's report indicated some of that, and continue to work on that. I will also be meeting with a couple of public relations consultants that work with public schools later on this week to look at some other options for enhancing the marketing of our schools. We're also forming a corporation curriculum committee to provide ongoing communication and focus with the staff on better aligning of our curriculum, K through 12. We're also looking at some professional development this summer. For the staff, we can plan on that. We'll be working closely with the Wabash Valley Education Service Center to provide that professional development. And then also need to commend, we talked about the donors to the middle school talent show. For some reason this year, I was really blown away with the talent of those kids. Some of the kids opened their mouths, and the first couple of notes came out of their mouths, and it was just outstanding for those who attended. For that level of talent, at that grade level, I was just amazed. So congratulations to the middle school students participated not only in the talent show, but also with the art and the poetry and the writing and things. Great talent in those schools. So Mr. Clark, congratulations to you and your staff and your students for that great show last week. And then last night, Mr. Ankrum and Mr. Johnson and myself had the opportunity to attend a meeting hosted by the Tipton County Foundation. Very informative meeting with Dr. Hicks and Carol from the Center of Business and Economic Research at Ball State. They provided a lot of data that's directly related to Tipton County economic demographic indicators, as well as different aspects of community development. A lot of things for schools to take into consideration, some other things. And do you have any comments or reflection on last night's meeting?
Yeah, we were there for 2.5 hours. It was very informative. Huge cross-section of the community, the two mayoral candidates, county commissioners, business leaders. Of course, the foundation hosted. They were well represented. The report, and they had a PowerPoint presentation. The report is to be on the foundation website at some point, maybe there by now. But it has lots of data and a couple interesting points. They started the meeting, they said, be prepared for Tipton population to decline through and including the year 2050. And that didn't sound very positive to start with. And a couple high points, though, they said a very interesting impact in a positive way that we have is the people moving into the county with, I believe it was bachelor degree or better, is on the rise. And they said that's very unique for a declining population to see a rise in college degree individuals or families moving in. They thought that was a positive. The other great thing we have to our advantage, they talked about the, 70% of the counties in the country that have a declining population. And we're lucky that Hamilton and Boone are two of the greatest growing counties in the nation. And it's just a matter of time. So by the end of the meeting, they said growth is going to happen here. It's how we want to deal with it and how we come together as a community. And that includes the schools, the city, the county, economic development, all stakeholders. And perhaps we can determine how we grow this community. So I felt like I heard growth is coming, and they gave the example of, 30 years ago, Marion County, donut community started growing, and they grew very rapidly. We're all aware of that. We know people in Hamilton County, etc. And now Hamilton County's crowding up, and a certain segment of that population is not going to want to be there. So what do we do to attract them? Absolutely schools for sure, but there's other things we can do. We have to come together as a community. The one thing I got to speak to the one gentleman after the meeting, I said, you know, one of the disadvantages we have is we're competing for kids, and there's websites that grade our schools, and Tipton actually is above average, and you'll see it in the presentation if you go there, but we're not that far above average. I asked the guy, I said, when I go to those websites and I look, I want to measure up and see what we have and what we don't have. You know, striking issue, challenge for us is our free and reduced lunch. We're at 50%, and most of
On the incline.
and going up. And most of the similar size schools above Hamilton County have the same challenge, and it's even worse in Madison County. And then I look at the Hamilton County schools. Hamilton Heights is the worst. They're at 35%. All the who's who, the Carmels, the Southeasters, the Fishers, they're at 5%. I said, you can't just tweak that. You can't fix that overnight. But he said a couple things to consider was, how do we maybe partner? You know, they talk about collaboration, but how do we partner with DCS and other folks that are out there helping the free and reduced kids, even bring them to the school and collaborate? And maybe that they've seen that happen. So that was one takeaway that I personally got that the rest of the audience probably didn't get to hear. Just lots and lots of data. The big paradigm shift is, you know, for years and years, economic development was all about, let's get manufacturing jobs, let's get this company to move their factory here and produce hundreds of jobs. And right now, we're probably lucky we've got Chrysler here now. The number of, let's say, factories that have 500 or more jobs that come into any one community, there's only 32 a year. 32 a year across the United States. So they calculated the number of counties and said, so you can expect to get one of those every 32 years, which is, and they talked about, you know, the tax abatements and other creative things that people have done in the past. The paradigm shift is, you know, get the people here. The jobs will come, but the people, get the people here through schools, through community involvement. Talked a lot about nature and greenery and providing something that we have. One of the examples, like apparently in Hamilton County now, they're setting aside certain areas to create farm atmosphere. I mean, we got a whole county of farm atmosphere, right? So we got a lot to offer. I just think we all should look at that report, and of course they've got consultants, maybe not the two we met with, but others that I think will be willing to help the community get on track. We got to get aligned up. Somehow they sensed the lack of alignment was in the county, and they spoke to that repeatedly. Got to get aligned. So, Gary?
I agree with everything you said. It was very interesting. Definite paradigm shift is one of the things that was probably the most surprising thing I think. But it does go to show that, you know, old philosophies and policies are pretty outdated across the board, and it's going to take new thoughts and new ideas to get things going.
And about land, all the different governmental entities need to work together. That's something we really haven't done that much with. Trying to do economic development, pull together a group to work with career development. So we had the career fair down the line as a result of that. We had the certificate, developing a partnership with businesses. But those people who attend those meetings are basically the same four people. School superintendents, some other school officials, chamber of commerce, a few others. Really not getting the involvement from other groups that we like to. We got things going with the economic development before that fell through. It was kind of hard to lady Tech kind of helping to facilitate that, but taking Tipton, Clinton, Howard, Miami, and Fulton counties, and trying to develop these partnerships again with schools and businesses to develop that workforce.
You mentioned being regional, think regional, not just Tipton City, Tipton County, but regions, maybe you mentioned. And then the last thing I noted was only 10% of folks move anywhere because of a job. So if somebody gets relocated from Iowa to Tipton because of Pioneer or whatever, that represents 10%. People move to communities today because of public services, amenities, schools, churches, environment, and having an engagement with the community.
And grant more than
Thank you, Lance and Michelle, for attending the meeting and information. Next, we will move on to old business, which we have none this evening. We move on to new business. First item, consideration to approve new courses for the Tipton High School beginning 2019-2020. Staff at Tipton High School has been working throughout the school year to plan the implementation of new required pathways for students, initiating other courses now required by the state of Indiana. It's recommended that the following courses be approved for 2019-2020. Textbooks recommendation: ACP Speech, AP German, AP Music Theory, Finite Math, Indiana Studies, Introduction to Computer Science, Ethnic Studies, Precision Machining 1, Principles of Business Management, Principles of Marketing, Digital Application, and Responsibility. Mr. Stilson went over these during our work session. Any other questions? Comments? I'm looking to approve this.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir, for doing that. Very excited for this. Next, consideration to approve the use of iPads for one-to-one at the grade 2 level. Elementary staff has found a way to bring enough iPads together to provide that one-to-one opportunity at the grade level. It's recommended that we proceed and approve the request to use iPads for one-to-one. Questions, comments in regards to this?
Only question I've got, does third grade have iPads currently?
I've had grade 3 and 4.
Motion to approve iPad for grade 2.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Next, consideration to amend the 2019-2020 school calendar. During the course of the 2018-2019 school year, there have been a couple of instances that presented themselves where a change in the calendar may be warranted. With the following changes are recommended. 2019-2020 school calendar to be amended to have Friday, March 27th, so it's Friday before spring break, and school will not be in session. That day would be added to the end of the calendar, and school would be in session for its last student day, Thursday, May 21st. The other item, 2019 school calendar be amended to move the e-learning day scheduled from Friday, April 10th to Friday, April 17th. So I put the prom schedule and work out fairly well for that. The other item is 2019-2020 school calendar be amended to add graduation date, class of 2020, to make it Saturday, May 30th. Begin at 11 a.m. So a week, we'll be able to schedule that, and parents can clean out the school year. Give us plenty of time in case we should have weekend after. It's the weekend after. A week later than what we had over the past 10 years. Question, comment?
My only comment is I think this, taking the Friday off before spring break, I think is outstanding. I can tell you it's been like this since the beginning of spring break. That's been an issue. I just think we need to review it next year to see if Thursday doesn't become a problem.
Take off.
Any other questions, comments in regards to the calendar? I do. I think there's some things to look at on it, but it'd be nice to have a access, so parents can go ahead and plan, family members can plan to be in town. Okay. Any other comments? If not, accept a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, consideration to approve the 2019-2020 textbook rental fees. Textbook rental fees are being submitted for approval. This recommendation includes rental for new textbooks that were approved last month, as well as other textbooks considered tonight. It also includes $75 technology fee that we're going to assess to grades 2 this year, plus going up through seniors. It is recommended for approve the 2019-2020 textbook rental fees. Questions, comments in regards to this? If not, accept the motion to approve these. So moved. Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, consideration to approve the 2019-2020 agreement with Buena Vista. Buena Vista provides services for preschool children with disabilities. We have contracted with them for a number of years to provide these services. Special education funding is used to help pay the cost of this service. It's recommended that the school corporations continues with the service for preschool children with disabilities offered through Buena Vista. Questions, comments? Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, consideration to approve the 2019-2020 agreement with the Crossing. Crossing provides an alternative education for students who struggle in traditional classrooms. Tipton School Corporation has partnered with the Crossing for the past few years. It's only charged tuition for those students who are actually enrolled in the Crossing program. It's recommended the board approve continued partnering with the Crossing for 2019-2020. Questions, comments in regards to this?
How many kids do we have that involved?
At Crossing, we have one this year. Years past, we've had as many as 4.
Yeah, we're not charged unless the kid is actually enrolled in it. And we have one kid that is not here, ready to go there.
Are they responsible for their transportation or
And a lot of times Crossing go out and find ways to help them with gas cards or whatever it is.
Any other questions or comments? Not accept the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next, consideration to give permission to the superintendent to hire staff between June, July, and all these board meetings. This is this time of year, filing positions. Schools are in competition to find the best candidates possible. In addition, we do not know what may happen to some teachers who may be looking for other positions or decide to leave for other reasons. By giving the superintendent permission to hire, go ahead and secure qualified candidates without having to wait for the board to act on resignations and allow us to get commitment from a candidate before they accept positions. We've done this in the past few years. She's always been very good to keep us up to date on what's going on. Any other comments or questions in regards to this? Accept the motion to approve, please. Second. Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, consideration to approve items as surplus. At the end of 2018-2019 school year, we have laptops that become surplus equipment. Some of these computers will continue to be used as loaners for spare parts, replace damaged or non-functioning laptops where needed. Laptops that are currently assigned to senior students will be made available for purchase by those graduating students. As we have in the past, that we no longer have used or sold to Diamond Assets. As a company specializing in purchasing used technology, we currently have or will have laptops, 131 from seniors and then 108, which are the ones that finish up from 5th grade this year. Still, no school has some old items such as printers, cartridges, cables, and other sort of items that no longer needed as well. It's recommended that the mentioned items be declared as surplus for purposes of disposal of these items. There are a lot of seniors that are interested in computers. A lot of them did last year, so it's a good program to do that as well. Any comments or questions in regards to this?
What will we be doing with the others? Offer them for sale?
We sell them to recycling. outlet, yeah,
To
Diamond
this-
Assets.
Diamond Asset
Yeah.
Company, they will.
But you don't offer it, just only offer it to seniors, that's it.
That takes a lot of time to clear the machines and everything.
Right.
One comment I would,
I think perk for the seniors to, if they want to take it to go on to college or something.
one comment I would offer is, I have a daughter that's now a sophomore in college, and we had this same offer 2 years ago. We bought a new computer for $1,200, so just recently I said, now, hey, tell me about the computer you had in high school. You think it could do everything you needed it to do? She goes, oh, yeah. So we have a senior this year, we're gonna do it, I don't know what your boys would say, but I bet they work for, and I know we wipe them clean, and you probably have to go to Best Buy and add Word and Excel and PowerPoint.
If they go on to college, they get all that software for free.
That's true.
So,
I think it's a good deal. Make a motion to approve.
motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Other matters come before the board, advisory committees, technology, or facilities technology is going to be tomorrow night. Personnel is on June 17th. Business affairs, we're moving that. Do we have a date yet?
I'll send the dates out to the
Okay,
committee.
yeah, that's, since that's during the fair, we'll get that worked out. Scheduled events, middle school awards programs tomorrow night, game concert tonight. Stage and Swing is this Friday night. Solo night for the Young Originals was awesome last weekend, so I'm sure Stage and Swing will be just as good. Top 10 banquet is Monday. School year is the 21st, graduation is Saturday, which is scary. Thursday, 7 o'clock. Tennis section, girls tennis, Kokomo. All the sectionals for baseball and softball next week.
Softballs, they play Tuesday. If they win Tuesday, they play Wednesday. If we win Wednesday, they play Thursday. So, right in a row, and then baseball, they start on that Friday.
Track is tonight. Okay. A lot of stuff to get done. Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate everybody this evening. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving for our executive session. We'll make it quick.
Good to see you, Christine. Nothing's going well.